Happy Friday, guys. Welcome to the show.
Happy Friday.
This is for those of you who are just joining, and I see plenty of participants coming in now. We have Franco and Riki. They're an amazing, inspiring, inventing couple. They have a natural charcoal product that's made from hardwood sawdust. And in a minute, we're going to see a short video for those that might not be familiar with the product. And you might not, because they have an incredible journey that's really compressed as far as inventing goes, because from an idea in 2018, they brought the product to market in 2019 and had like incredible success right off the bat, like over $300,000 in sales. I don't remember if it was within 6 months or within 12 months, but it's an incredible statistic, especially for a new product launch, and then the Shark Tank appearance and everything else. So there's a lot we're going to cover. But for now, Jenny, if you can play the short video with like an overview.
I'm Franco for Prime 6, and today we're going to talk about Prime 6, how it's made, and why it's different than other charcoals. So here are your most popular two kinds of charcoal. We have the briquette, which is basically charcoal powder, carbonized sawdust, mixed in with a binder or an accelerant, formed into these forms, left to dry to use as charcoal. And you have your typical lump, basically pieces of hardwood that are carbonized and turned into charcoal. Prime 6 offers the best of both worlds. It's a third category charcoal. What we basically do is take raw sawdust, hardwood sawdust, and compress it back into wood form. We're basically creating lump wood, but our wood is over 3 times denser than any lump wood. Then we take this wood and we carbonize it for over 15 days. We get to over 90% pure carbon in each briquette. That's why each of these briquettes weighs about 4 times more than the equivalent sized lump. This gives you a charcoal that is consistent in density all over, so you get consistent heat for a very long burn time. Thank you for watching this video. For more information and tips on how to use our product, go to prime6.com.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's me.
Yep, truth in advertising, right? Like, so there you have it. There's the founder, and we have Franco here, and his wife Riki, and you know, it's got I'll start out with that I'm sure inventing as a couple has unique challenges of its own. What were you guys doing prior to this idea? And I know this is not your first startup, but let's start kind of at the beginning.
How far back do we want to go?
Well, when you were born. No.
Maybe we can start with the Private Chef NYC. I think this was our first.
Yeah, I mean,
endeavor.
we had 3. This is our third venture together. My background is hospitality, mainly the back of the house. So I came to New York to go to culinary school. That was a dream of mine since I was about 12 years old. I spent the majority of my professional life in kitchens in New York, and slowly moved to the operational side of it. And at some point, started cooking for people in their house as a side job. And I think we both kind of realized the potential of that business. And our first venture was born. It was called the Private Chef NYC, and we did, private dinners, cooking classes, a very boutique, very curated kind of work. We did that for, I think, about 2-3 years.
Probably 3 years, yeah, I would say. And after that, that was a time that we went back home to Israel because of a family emergency, and a new passion has emerged. Israel is known for being the tech bubble of the world, so everything is kind of contagious. Everybody is an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and we were part of that environment there. And this is where Feed Me was born. It was a food startup that curated culinary experiences and stories, whether there are recipes or restaurant reviews or travel and leisure, everything around food. And we ran that for 3 years. We were in accelerators in Israel, and then we moved to San Francisco to an accelerator, and we ended up back in New York City. And after 3 years of raising money and running the business, the product wasn't really there and needed some extra funding. We were kind of tired of it as well, and we decided to shut it down in 2016. This was really the last venture before Prime 6. And then 2 years later, after each of us kind of had a separate career, we sat one day when we were 5 months pregnant with our second child and thought to ourselves, this is a great time to reinvent ourselves and become entrepreneurs again. And this is how Prime 6 came to life about 3 years ago.
Okay, and it wasn't, what's interesting is that it's not like you were new to barbecuing. You took a passion that was a hobby and something that you loved doing anyway. And I've seen some of your other interviews, and you talk about like in the backyard, being outside, that environment with the family and with your kids. It kind of fueled the concept of, okay, there's got a better way. And it's funny because like cooking with fire is not anything new, right? You took an area that's normally not seen as an area of technical innovation, right? It's not like you have an app for an iPhone or something where the mind first goes to, oh, let's innovate a new unique way of doing something. Here you're cooking with fire. Traditionally you've got charcoal, you've got wood. Bring us to the beginning, like what was the downsides you saw with traditional charcoal that others didn't see? And sometimes it's not until a product is out there that people realize how bad the alternative was. I'll think of one quick example, and then I'll let you go. Like the Post-it note is really replacing, for the most part, tape and paper, which have been around forever. And then nobody really realized the advantage of having removable glue and these Post-its until 3M started giving them away for free. And then once you get hooked on them, you're like, gosh, I don't want to use a piece of tape and paper anymore. So with that backdrop, tell us a little bit about the start and why, most entrepreneurs, they see a problem in existing solutions, and then they try to address that. So describe the problem that you guys saw.
I think it's not like this one huge problem that was there that everybody was trying to attack, and I think that's why the field has been neglected for so long. I mean, there hasn't been really much change in charcoal. Probably the last innovation in charcoal was Henry Ford creating the briquette. So what, about a little over 100 years ago?
Right.
But I think there are a lot of things that you do in life, processes, that there's like little things that you said, if only this was a little better, and if only that was a little better. And it doesn't look like a big problem, but when you sum them all up, it does. And a lot of these things did exist in the grilling experience. So I mean, briquettes, for example, they're great. They usually, like the ones that light by themselves, very easy, but they're out in about 45 minutes. So by the time you're ready to grill, or you're always afraid of running out of fire while you're cooking, binders, additives, fuels, things that you don't want, you don't want in your charcoal. But the briquette is a very consistent product. It's always made the same, depending on the brand that you buy. It has the same ingredients, the same structure, the same size. So whatever the performance is, good or bad, it's consistent. Mm-hmm. Lump, on the other hand, it has, no binders. It is a natural product, but you are at the mercy of a lot of factors. You're at the mercy of Mother Nature, and what the life cycle of the tree was to dictate the density. And then when you buy a bag of lump, different sizes, different density. A lot of the bag, about 10-15% of the bag, is actually so small, chipped so that it doesn't really do anything for you. You still pay for it in the gross, weight of the purchase. Right. And so it's a lot of little things. It won't stop you from grilling, but if you can eliminate all that, and all the disadvantages and have one product that gives you the best of both worlds, and is sustainable, and we're also a mission, an impact company. So there's another layer on top of that. Then produce it, present it, and that's the innovation.
I
So-
will add that when we, the first idea was, let's see what we can do. It wasn't, we didn't set up to revolutionize or to create anything that would revolutionize. We wanted to test it and see if we can create something that would be different than what's out there, because this is the land of grilling. We're coming from a culture that is used to celebrating outdoors. Everything is around food and family and friends. So it was a natural step for us to take in that specific category. It wasn't a natural step to take. It wasn't something that we've dreamed about, but it was an opportunity that we wanted to see if we can, really create. And mind you, the product exists in Asia for a long time. But what we did is we changed the way that it was manufactured. So we reversed the process. When you have a briquette, usually you are carbonizing the sawdust, and then that mush is being binded with a glue or an accelerant or some sort of a binder and mold into a shape. What we did is we used the sawdust as a raw ingredient, and then used the natural material, the natural oils of that sawdust, of the wood, with a high compression machine, and created this log.
And so there's absolutely no binders whatsoever in that. There's no glue, there's no binders, there's nothing other than the sawdust and, as you say, the natural oil. Like that's remarkable. I mean, that's the part that I think, as an engineer, and I know there's a lot more, I don't want to get too much into the details of how that's done, but it's just fascinating. But it's interesting is that technology of the compression is not something you had to invent. It already existed. You just took existing technology and used it in a new way that hasn't been used before. And that's classic innovation. And sometimes it's surprising to inventors who think that they've got to just completely create from scratch instead of borrow things from different fields and just apply them differently.
Correct, exactly. And that's really how this is all started. And then this log became this charcoal, and we sent it out to pitmasters in the US to see how we're doing. And when we got the feedback that this was a kick-ass product and the best performance that they've ever experienced, that it was consistent with heat for a long period of time, and all of the other benefits that were attributed, then we knew that we had a disruption, right? And that we can go and compete in a dinosaur market, because this is what charcoal is, and nobody else was doing it besides us. Then we moved to, okay, if we are going to be very different in the shape and the whole experience, the brand itself should be kind of standing or in a way stands for something that is different as well. And for us, sustainability is very important. We are cooking all the time for our kids, for our family. It's very important to us what we use. And if we grill, we want to make sure that we're using a charcoal or wood that are completely natural. And so on top of using the sawdust as a waste sawdust, really, it's a byproduct of the wood industry, and converting it into a product, we're also planting one tree with every purchase. So this is our commitment to standing out in that marketplace, on top of the design and the branding and everything else.
Okay, so that's a concept that that again, it's it's somewhat well known in that, and it's a new trend where companies and individuals and startups, they're doing well, but doing well by doing good. So the sawdust that's used in your product, a lot of it would otherwise end up in landfills. So,
Correct.
and when you call it a waste product, that's what you mean. Like it's basically thrown away by factories as having no use. So you took something that's otherwise just not good for the environment. It's filling up landfills, and then remarkably, in your charcoal, instead of the 40, you talked about 45 minutes as a typical briquette, but what is the burn time that your product offers?
Anywhere from 4, 5 to 8 hours. A lot of it depends on you break it into smaller pieces. It depends on the application. Also depends a lot on the airflow. We have a business in Florida that does smoking, and they use it in their smoker, and he's getting 18 hours of consistent heat from a third of a box, which for him was unheard of because it's a known thing that when you do low and slow smoking, usually it means you have to set a clock to an alarm clock to like 2, 3, 4 a.m. Wake up and feed your smoker so you don't run out of heat, because eventually the charcoal does die off, and that's something that anybody who does smoking doesn't have to do anymore when they use Prime 6.
Okay, wow, because that's, I mean, and that's way beyond, like an 18-hour sleep day would be an incredible amount of sleep. So they,
Yeah.
they can definitely be safe with that. Were there any obstacles in prototyping that you had to overcome? I know I saw the original log is obviously much larger. And how many prototypes or how many iterations did you have to go through before you had the version that you went on Shark Tank with? And we'll get to the show as well in a second, but
it's kind of like a recipe that you try out. You change the compression, you change the humidity, you change different components that are part of the process until you get something that you like. It didn't take long. It took maybe a few months, maybe 2 to 3 months until we got to the final version that we felt comfortable launching. I think the hardest part was after we went to market. Once when you have the prototype and the excitement of launching something, that's good, and then you go to market and you put it on the shelf and you start worrying that people will understand that they will buy it, that they will enjoy it, that that you can really get the consumer at the end of the day enjoying and understanding the value and getting the value that you want them to get from it.
So it's funny looking at it, you guys now, and where the company is and the sales and the final product. It can be intimidating for a lot of inventors that are early on in the process. But when you talk about getting it on store shelves, your initial sales were not from store shelves. I mean, I remember reading an interview about selling from the back of your car. Tell us a little bit about that, because it's hard sometimes to envision where the product is now and to go back in time and imagine its humble starts. And it's funny in your case because 2018 is not a decade ago. It all happened so quickly. But take us back to the beginning and the early sales. What did you have to do to get at least the first few people to take a chance on it? And
yeah, so the first time that we ever pitched a buyer was end of January 2019. I was 9 months pregnant at the time, and we both walked to the buyer's office. It was a mini chain of supermarkets in New York City, and we got the prototype of the packaging just 2 days before,
and it was the only one that we actually
had. That was the only one we had. So we said if he wants to keep it, we don't have anything. We don't have any more.
That's the display model, right? It's when stores sell the display model because that's all they have.
Exactly. So we walked in, and the strategy was, obviously we had the deck. We worked on the deck and the pitch and everything, and we had that ready on the computer. But we said, because it's a face-to-face, what we're going to do, we're going to put it on the table. in front of him, and we're just going to wait to see the reaction, and we will know where this is going. So we walked in, we shook hands, and he was looking at the packaging really just for like 2-3 minutes of silence, and then he said, "What is the minimum order?" Just like that, without asking anything else, without reviewing the deck that we've worked hours on. Right. And we said a container is a minimum, which was like 5,000 units for a 17 store chain. It's a lot. Like you don't sell that much to 17 stores. And he said, okay. He handed us over the vendor paperwork, and within 4 months we put the products on the shelf. That was exactly 2 years ago. And then when we put the product on the shelf at the stores, and then with the rest of the product that we had, we loaded the back of the car, and we started going around New York City to areas where we knew that people were grilling on a weekly basis. So places in Brooklyn, in Queens, and we just, we took a sample with us. We asked to speak with the store manager. We kind of pitched him on the spot, and we made a sale, and we delivered it the next day. And so it was really kind of a lot of legwork to stores and to restaurants. And this is how we started exactly 2 years ago.
Wow. So, and did you already have these sales in place when you went on Shark Tank?
We had. It's funny because people think like you apply and then you just go on Shark Tank, because it's actually a few months from Correct. When you apply to when you actually get to film the show. So we had some sales, and one of the things that will help you get on the show eventually is that you have to keep on growing. And so the numbers kept growing before we went on the show, which puts you, I think, in a better position when you're pitching, is to show that growth. But it's funny because we were two people. You didn't know anything about the packaging, what you're supposed to put on it, what you're not supposed to put on it. You learn as you go along. We got the vendor pack from the first buyer, and that's the first time we actually realized what you need in order to become a vendor for a supermarket, because we had no idea the kinds of like insurance and logistics and trucking and warehouse. We had nothing. We had that one box.
Right.
So it's not just about going and delivering it. It's everything around it that you have to learn how to do on the fly as you go, because the buyers, the customers, the restaurants, they don't care. They want the product. You have to deliver. That's the price. This is when we want it. We had a restaurant in New York that was buying consistently, the first restaurant that was buying consistently. And every time you have to go out, I went to the warehouse, I pulled, the people thought, I'm the delivery guy. She's the delivery guy. She's a salesperson. You're the CEO on the phone. You're the delivery guy in the car. You're the salesperson. You're everything. It's and on the off time, you're on Google, understanding, people send you a document and we need this, and this. You don't even know what it is. These are all these acronyms that can mean like 5 different things, and you go online and you figure it out. So it's just a whole. It's not just the sales are important. Obviously, it's the number one thing that you have to show traction. But to get those sales, there's a whole system to support that. That is just a learn as you go process, which I think is the whole story.
And in your case, the learning had to be done on a really compressed basis because of how quickly the product started taking off. So the sales is one thing that I think impressed the Sharks and helped bring you to the top of the list in terms of who they audition and who they ultimately select. But you were very fortunate in that you also had protected the intellectual property involved. Even though, as I started out kind of joking that it's fire and charcoal and wood, which is millions of years old technology, but by getting intellectual property protection and patents, was something that caught the attention of the Sharks as well. So tell us about that and what impact that had.
Yeah, we actually, at the beginning, we were just focused on launching the product. We didn't really think about the patents until we felt like this has potential. Like we saw orders and we saw new customers and we saw the excitement and the feedback. This is when we realized we needed to protect the invention. And so we initially submitted what's called, like, we ran a search to see that the process was not already published by a different manufacturer or person. And when we realized that this was novel and innovative, we went on to submitting a provisional first in order to secure the date of the invention, and then we moved on to actually submitting the patent.
And now you have multiple patents, not just on the product itself, but also the packaging, because there's unique aspects of the packaging.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a lot of different little things that you sometimes don't even think that you don't like until somebody offers you an alternative. Because of the qualities of the product, you actually need less to get the equal experience of lump or briquette. So we burn very hot and we burn very long, so you don't need a 22-pound bag to do one grill. You can probably get away with less than the 9-pound to get the equivalent. So if the package is small, then why do these big bags that you carry out that you can't hold and that are hard to pour and you have to rip it open? You think of the whole experience of grilling, and you wanna kind of like bring that up a few levels.
Yeah, elevate it.
Yeah, elevate it, and you want to elevate everything from the way it's placed on the shelf to how it gets carried out to how it gets open, and the fact that once you open it, if you don't use a whole bag, you want to be able to close your box and put it away. So so the packaging definitely was part of the innovation, and for us it's a whole thing, is how do you protect your brand overall, it's the trademark, the name, it's everything that goes into it. And then you file multiple patents and multiple IPs that you say, hey, this is, because everything has a reason. The name has a reason. It's we didn't just say, oh, okay, let's call it Prime 6 and then run with it.
So tell us about the reasoning and how you came about with Prime 6 as the name.
Big whiteboard, phone in your hand, and you Google stuff for inspiration. We were looking at charcoal, and we found out that it actually can also be referred to atom number 6 or atomic number 6. And there's that's a cool, atom, atomic, fire, heat.
Right.
And 6, we it's an hexagon, so a lot of like arrows and crossing.
And we wanted a name that would portray that this is a unique product. It's not the cowboy, right? It's not about being a cowboy. It's not about being anything else, but using something that's a really premium in the sense that it delivers a superior experience. And the word premium got stuck with us, and then we shortened it to Prime, and the 6 of the hexagon made sense, and it all of a sudden sounded like Chanel 5, and so we said, okay, we're going to stick with Prime 6 and see how that works.
Love it. Can you hold up the final one of the units, and we can see the 6 sides? You hold it up to the camera.
This one?
Yeah, a little bit closer. Yeah, perfect. Okay, wow. So was it always 6-sided, or has the prototype also changed over time?
It was always 6-sided. It was always a hexagon. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I know we're close on time. One of the things I like to end with is if you had one piece of advice for somebody new that's starting out with a new idea, and based on what you've learned, not just through Prime 6, but you guys have also had experience with earlier ideas as well. What is something that you wish somebody had told you in the early days that you now get a chance to tell other inventors?
I have a long list. I will start with something that is very, very often, you only read about success, right? Mm-hmm. But the one thing I learned that success isn't linear. It's not a straight line. There are failures along the way. There are lessons learned. There is left and right and backwards and stopping and rethinking and strategizing. And it goes in so many directions. The trajectory should be up, but it's never like that. So accepting that the journey is the way it is part of encompassing being an entrepreneur, in my opinion. And once, if you really have a product that is revolutionary, that is 1,000 times better than what's out there, keep going. You'll hear a lot of no's. That's okay. A lot of times people don't get it the first time. They don't get it the second time. But if it's a really good product, it will catch on. And it was just the tenacity and the perseverance and the sheer belief and go-getterness of the entrepreneur that will get it to where it needs to go. That's my take.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, sometimes all of that has been summarized as grit, and you ask, that's what it takes, because there are a lot of obstacles. I'm sure you've had a lot of naysayers that didn't see the potential and said, why, this is not going to work. You're wasting your time. Go back to your day jobs and whatever else. So there's that journey, even though your journey was shorter, but it still took a lot. 3 years is still not short. I mean, in general, to put your lives on hold and just focus on this. Franco, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, you can hear 50 no's. You only need one yes. It's not an equal pool
Love
size.
it.
You can get 100. I mean, I think it was and the autobiography of I forget his name, the founder of Starbucks, that he pitched it to 47 investors and the 48th said yes. So, and that one yes was what had gotten him from zero to everything. So you just need that one yes. And I will add to that, I think, like, product and user experience is everything. Everything around it is it's great to have, but be very attentive to the feedback that you get. Don't be afraid to put the product in as many people's hands. That feedback that you'll get from your customers, from the early adopters, will make you 100 times better. Don't fall in love with what you think is right. I think it's a big lesson we learned from the tech venture, that we were very in love with the product. I like to say that we did the right way with the wrong product, and now we did the right way with the right product. So it's the product is the core, and be focused on that. Don't stray away from that that anchor in your business.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, there's just so much gold in what you're saying. I mean, typically, I promise our viewers a half hour because of this pandemic. Everyone's is kind of zoomed out, but I went over by a couple minutes because I just think there's so much wisdom in what you're saying. And it's funny that you've taken the product experience and the user experience, which usually people think about, and you mentioned Starbucks. Like, Starbucks did that with coffee. And it seemed like coffee was just a commodity type item, and there was very little innovation. And a lot of their innovation was in the packaging as well. I mean, that cardboard sleeve that goes onto the cup is really packaging and user experience. I mean, the prior way was to use a double cup, and this is just one way to differentiate. And Jay Sorensen, the inventor that patented that cardboard sleeve, had licensing fees of about $1 million a year off of that. So there's a lot to be said for packaging. So I see you're reading a lot on the journeys other inventors have taken, and that part from Starbucks just comes to mind as well. So wonderful idea that you have, like, great journey. If you want to, Jenny, if you want to type in the URL for if somebody wants to purchase, where would they go to buy? I know it's available on Walmart, Lowe's, everywhere, but you have your own website as well. Tell us about that, and Jenny will put that in the chat box as well.
Our website is prime-6.com. This is where you can find all of the tutorials and educational video, frequently asked questions, in the press, Shark Tank videos, other videos, and the product obviously to purchase. And we are coming out with 2 additional products this summertime. So that will be posted shortly as well.
Perfect. And is it prime-6 SIX?
Yep,
SIX,
exactly,
yes,
yeah.
exactly like that.
Exactly, is terrific. All right. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful Friday for
You
our
too.
viewers out
Thanks
there.
for having us.
Thank you. We're going to have this interview in the Inventors Mastermind, which is my private Facebook group as well. So Jenny, you can put a link to that as well, and we'll put a link to the interview online. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you.